Hi, this is Becca.
And this is Kyla.
And you are listening to Chadderbox. Well, thank you for being here with us today, whether you are a new listener or if you are a returning listener. We love you guys, and we hope you guys are enjoying Chatterbox.
I hope you are. I hope you are.
If you guys have any episode ideas, would like to become a guest on our podcast, or if you just want to send us feedback, please reach out to us by email. We're going to keep that in the description of the podcast. It's chatterboxcorner@gmail.com. We want to grow our network and we want to grow our business. So that's the point of doing this adventure, is to grow our business. So now that we have our announcements out of the way, we're going to get into topic, which it is a doozy. We're going to be talking about a medical anomaly called spontaneous human combustion, SHC. According to the internet, if you look this up, spontaneous human combustion, it is a pseudo-scientific idea that a living person can spontaneously combust without any apparent reason or cause.
That's fucking crazy.
So, after all the research that I did on this, I can honestly say that some of these stories, they just seem so... Why would somebody just make that up? Like, what would be the point? And the thing is, it's been documented for centuries, so it's not something that's just, like, over the last 1,000 years. It's been going on since the 1600s, and...
Really?
Yeah, so it's...
The, like 1700s, the 1600s?
I think it's the first reported case, which I'm actually going to look. 1673. So
wow.
That's the first documented case of it.
What was even going on in 1673? That's all you have to answer. That's it. Because it was that long ago. You don't know.
Yeah.
That just proves it. Right there. That's it. Boom. It's
okay. Some characteristics of spontaneous human combustion is the middle of the body will be reduced to ashes, while the head and extremities, such as like your hands or your feet, are still there. There's little damage to the surrounding area is also part of this, which I find super odd.
So like their hands and feet are left?
Sometimes.
Like that's it?
Yeah.
So just be a hand?
Or like a literal, like their head. It's like, there's just nothing, and there's just like ash.
But it was burnt.
Mm-hmm. And some of this research, actually this is a proven fact, they say that in order for human bone to turn to ash, it needs like some kind of like pressurized like crematorium, so it would have to be over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But some of these people's bodies burned just like in their home or in their car, like without any apparent cause. Sometimes there's like actual like newspapers or hay, like loose hay lying nearby, and they're just like, they're the only things that are burned. So I guess in some medical journals or even doctors would say that like that was the cause of death, was spontaneous human combustion. But now doctors don't even, they're like, something wasn't done right. They didn't investigate it right. They were wrong. And modern science basically refuses to believe it. But we are going to get into several stories that have been documented in medical journals throughout the world, really.
It's crazy they don't consider it.
I would say, after all this research, I guess I'm just going to wait and give you my opinion. I'll give you my opinion at the end after I read all of this stuff. Some other characteristics of spontaneous human combustion is no obvious source of ignition. So there was like no fire or standing fire around where they were. And then there's also, at times, there can be a bad smelling, oily substance that's left of them. And it's never been able to be determined what that is. But the first story that we have was recorded in 1673. One of the earliest cases recorded by Thomas Bathalin, he describes a poor woman of the people consumed by fire in Paris. He says that she is a heavy drinker of strong spirits, which, why don't we call alcohol spirits? I mean...
They do.
Spirits sounds... Say it.
They do call them spirits and wines, like, in some places, so...
Yeah.
But what is a spirit out of all that crap?
I think it's just talking about liquor. I'll have to look that up. He claims that this woman was malnourished for 3 years due to her being an alcoholic. And one day she went to bed and the only thing that remained when she was found was her head and her fingers, and the rest of her body was reduced to ash. Which, my thing is, if you're on a bed of hay, then, I mean, the hay's gonna catch on fire. I make fires all the time. Like, I save all of my boxes, and I burn them in my yard. Because I don't want them to end up in a landfill. I'd rather... like, use them for the warmth that I can in my backyard.
Yeah.
So, like, I literally use hay to build my fires. If you put hay on a fire, it's gonna burn.
Yeah.
So the fact that it didn't burn, I mean, that's something, it's pretty important to the story.
It's dry.
Yeah.
It's...
yeah, like, I would say that if you're sleeping on hay and you catch on fire, then the hay would catch on fire, but this is something that's noted through a lot of these cases. It's going to get more weird as it goes on. But now this next case is from... This account was dated back in 1731, and it was brought before the Council of the Royal Society of London in 1745. This is literally what it says. The Countess Cordelia Bandy, in the 62nd year of her age, was all day as well as she used to be, but at night was observed, when at supper, to be very dull and heavy. She retired and was put to bed, where she passed 3 hours and more in familiar discourses with her maid and some prayers, and at last falling asleep, the door was shut. In the morning the maid took notice that her mistress did not wake at the usual hour. She went into the bedchamber and called for her, and was not being answered. She thought that there was an accident, so she opened the window and saw the corpse of her mistress. 4 feet from the bed there was a heap of ashes, and 2 legs untouched from the foot of the knee, and the stockings were still on, and the lady's head still remained at the top.
That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Just trying to imagine. I wonder if, like, the head was, like, you know, gushing out blood or anything.
It literally goes on to say her brains were half-backed part out of her skull, and her whole chin was burnt to ashes.
Oh.
Among her was found 3
That's crazy that I said.
I'm gonna read it because I was like,
hey,
do it! If you're really grossed out, sorry, I guess I should have done a trigger warning. If you are kind of like freaked out by like blood or talking about something that's kind of like a morbid topic.
It's like a zombie brain in a sense, you think about that way.
Yeah, like if you don't like that kind of stuff, then you're just not gonna like this episode. I'm sorry, because it's just full of stuff, so.
People basically fucking exploding, dude.
Yeah.
Expect it.
Expect it. If you don't like it, you might just want to skip this one.
You better expect it.
Oh. Basically, they ascribe this in, let's see, it was a gentleman's magazine in 1746, so they describe it as inflamed of her blood by juices and fermentations in the stomach, and by many combustible matters which are abundant in living bodies, and for uses of life, such as the settling of spirit of wine and brandies and other hot liquors in the tunica villosa of the stomach lining.
Okay, how old is this book, or how new is it? Who?
1746.
But who? I mean, they got that from an excerpt from another thing?
Yeah, that's basically what this clipping is.
Someone's just reading?
Ooh. Yes, from 1746, yes.
I'm like, who the fuck wrote that? I'm like, the way it's worded. Weird.
Yeah, this is old stuff.
You can
but
tell it's old.
we're starting from very old. So now we're going to move. Eventually we're going to move into the 1950s, and then we're actually going to talk about one that actually just happened in 2010. That's what we're going to end it with. But we're starting from like
At
the very
least you get
bottom.
to see how thou I burneth from inside outeth. That's what I'm hearing.
What is this? The Bible?
Is this when Romeo was? I'm just kidding.
His room when his brother-in-law heard cries coming from his room. So once they opened the door, they saw that he was lying on the floor and was basically surrounded in flames. As his brother-in-law and sister approached him, the flames simply vanished. In the morning, they called Dr. Bettinglia to come examine him, and this is what the doctor describes in his journal. The skin at the top of the right arm is completely detached at the shoulder. From both shoulders to the top of the thighs, there is equal damage, but the damage is far worse on the right side of the body. Despite treatment, his condition worsened, and he notes the patient complained of a burning thirst that could never be satisfied, and on day 4 of treatment, Bertoli died. And before the death of the priest, the doctor says that he remembers he was not around a fire, but he experienced a stroke of heat to his right hand that sent his shirt up in flames, and he called this a lambent flame.
He was so like dang lubricated that he slit himself up like a match.
He said that it was like a stroke of a match to the right hand, but he wasn't.
Okay.
But he wasn't near a fire.
But he basically was the match, is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
he was so lubricated or something. His body was like oil. Who knows? Maybe people's bodies fill up with some type of like matter that makes them flammable, and then something happens. I don't know.
You know that there's a Stephen King movie called Firestarter. It was a book first, but it's also a movie. Have you seen that? Firestarter?
No, but I've heard about it. Like I've seen like the title, and I've seen what the picture looks like.
It's basically of this girl who like gets really mad and she like sets things on fire, but she can't control it. So the parents keep her separated from people at all times because she can't like control her.
It's like opposite of Frozen.
Well, like
That's crazy though.
I honestly believe that there are kids out there that probably have like special abilities, but they are completely hidden from the public.
For sure.
Like,
or they just don't know about it, but they have these weird side effects and stuff that affect them in different ways, and they don't know how to control it or contain it.
Yeah, and I would say, honestly, I really feel like this kind of stuff is related to that. What if it's people who have these abilities, but they don't know how it even happens?
At one point, but I don't know if I should say anything.
No, like, it's something that I think is crucial to the story. I don't think that modern science will ever agree to that. But I really feel like this has to do with people who have some kind of abilities that they either somehow got access to that they don't know. Maybe it's a bloodline thing. Certain bloodlines only have access to this type.
What if they looked into it, like what people it happened to?
Mm-hmm.
If there was a pattern so much to where you could see.
See,
or was it specific ages? Like, were these people a specific age or random age?
As we continue with all of this research, it can be older people. It can be babies as young as like 11 months.
That's crazy.
Children.
More powerful.
Yeah, I mean.
Sorry. You know, hit them at a different age. Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The strangest thing noted from the whole incident was there was a lamp that was in the room, but there was no oil in it. Not a hair on his head was burned, nor anything burnt below the upper thigh. There was also no cause of fire in the room found. The bed was made of straw. The floor received no burns while he was laying on it. It was only Bertoli that burned. So those are all really strange. Like, the fact that the doctor had to know all of this stuff is, I mean, he was probably like, these people are lying. Now we're going to go with the last case from the 1700s that we'll talk about. and this one is in 1788. A man describes a chambermaid is washing the floor when fire started coming from her back. When the man screamed and started trying to put out the flames, he claims that it was only then that she noticed that she was even burning and began to cry out in pain. He could not put out the fire and she did not survive. And that comes from a book called Mysterious Fires and Lights. We will link all of our sources in the description if you would like to look at them later. But now we're going to get into more recent cases from like the 1900s, and also, surprisingly, the last case that we'll talk about is from 2017. So it gets pretty crazy. Now we're going to get into a mysterious case that was recorded by Dr. De Bruce in the Edinburgh Medical and Surgical Journal, dated back in 1829. He states that the subject's hands burst into blue flames. The flames continued for several hours, and the only thing that would help was constant immersion of the subject's hands under water. Even after immersion of the hands, the flames would continue only seconds after exposure to air. Yeah. So
This probably stuff happens more often. It's just hidden more. This is just recorded because it wasn't so much like, oh, maybe people shouldn't know about it.
yeah, I would say because modern science doesn't even, they just dismiss this. Like, they say that's not a real condition. And they're not like open-minded or anything, so this is why stuff like this isn't going to get like funding from the government. Like, the government's not going to fund a bunch of research to this stuff because they're going to be like, that doesn't happen. When in reality, the government probably takes these children and then they use them for stuff like they did on Stranger Things. I believe that Stranger Things was based on a true story. I am convinced.
Where all them kids go, though?
I loved Stranger Things. Now we're going to get into a account that was noted in January of 1835. A professor of mathematics from the University of Nashville in Tennessee. He was described as a victim of partial human combustion. So the incident happened on January 5th of 1835 when James arrived home after a walk to check his hygrometer outside. I have no idea what a hygrometer is.
I don't even know what that means.
The thermometer read 8 degrees above zero that day, so it was very cold. He felt a sharp pain, as he describes as a hornet's sting, in his upper thigh. When he looked down, the diameter of the flame was close to a dime, and it started growing from his inner thigh. He slapped the flame with his hands, and the flames just continued to build. So then he thought that maybe cupping his hand and cutting off oxygen to the flame would allow it to stop. And he was right. But when James took his pants off to examine the wound, he said that the wound was 3/4 of an inch wide and 3 inches long, and that the area burned looked like it had been cut, but he recalls having no injury to the area before. He claims that there was no burning lamp or candle in the vicinity when he felt the sensation of the hornet's sting. The most amazing thing, he notes, is that his underwear was not even burned, and that the fibers inside where the burn was have a slight dark tinge area, but it didn't like burn through his clothes. But the flame went through his clothes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, this was actually,
That's crazy. I mean, it's just crazy to think that. I mean, it makes, you know what I mean? Like, that's just crazy. How is that possible?
It's not like a normal type of fire. That means the fire has it has a different fuel. It's not like gas. It's like the air is feeding the fire, whatever it is.
Crazy, it's for real.
The physician who treated his wounds noted that it was very unusual, but James would heal after 32 days in the hospital, and this never happened to him again, or at least it was never recorded that it happened to him again. This was actually from a British medical journal. They noted that a soldier in England was noted climbing in a hayloft in Colchester, England, on February 19th of 1888. He was noted that he was drinking heavily before he went to sleep that night. And the next morning, they found his body completely charred and burned, but the high flammable hay around him in loose bundles was not even scorched.
I wonder if alcohol has something to play in it.
Honestly, it probably does. I would say
Making it more flammable.
also the kind of alcohol you drink in like super large amounts. I mean, it's possible.
Those couldn't.
Well, now we're going to get into some from the United States. This is one of the first recorded ones in the United States. On a cold January morning in Bladensboro, North Carolina, a woman named Miss Williamson suddenly burst into flames at the bottom of her dress. Her husband and her daughter note that nothing was recently cleaned by any flammable cleaning solution, and she was not standing next to a fire. The husband and daughter witnessed the flames coming from her dress, and they tore off the flaming part of the dress with their bare hands, and surprisingly nobody was burned. They actually called the police to document this. Soon after this first instance, Mr. Williamson noticed that his pants caught fire after she had touched his pants. She set him on fire. After leaving the bed one morning, he said that the sheets suddenly caught fire after she left the bed. He also said that the same thing happened with the curtains next to the bed. And he also said that the flame appeared to be a blue color. The family noticed that it was odd. The police were called several times, arson experts, special investigators, several gas and electric companies were sent to the house to take a report, and a local newspaper noted the fires started and burned out and vanished just as mysteriously as if they were guided by invisible hands. There has been no logical explanation.
I don't, that's crazy, dude.
There's a story that's coming up that this one actually, I don't know, it got with me because while I was reading it, I was just like, I can't imagine this happening in front of me. Like, I would not know what to do. But
imagine getting that on video.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I wonder. I don't have access to my TikTok yet. Most of you probably have access yet. You should like look it up on TikTok. Like, well, actually, I don't know. Maybe TikTok won't allow that.
What?
If you look up spontaneous human combustion, probably isn't even a topic.
Probably.
Or SHC.
Let's look.
Mine keeps saying that. Hold on, what does mine say? I wonder if any of you are having this issue because I feel like I'm literally the only one. According to, there's probably like a few thousand people on Reddit, but mine says TikTok is temporarily unavailable. We're working hard to resolve this issue. Thank you for your patience. And then the app just closes. So there's videos about it?
People talking about it, yeah.
Huh. Okay. So yeah, look it up on TikTok. You'll find stuff about it. But
It is a real terrifying. This phenomenon has been documented throughout history and has caused many scary moments.
Look it up. Now we're going to get into one from 1938. This was Miss Mary Carpenter, died while vacationing in England. The incident happened in full view of her husband and children. Her family claims that she was engulfed in flames and reduced to a charred corpse in minutes. Nothing we could have done could have saved her. No one else around them was hurt, and there was no damage to any surrounding area. Investigators say that they cannot understand how this could have happened.
If they would look back into history, they might see that other stuff is happening similarly.
Well, a lot of these documented cases are in London, but I guess like in the US, they didn't really document very much of these cases because US doctors just like dismissed it. They just said the investigators either didn't do their due diligence and they didn't research correctly, or something was missed.
Basically, if it's unknown to them, fuck it.
Yeah, basically. One of the youngest victims was a Peter Seaton in London, and he was only 11 months old. Visitors were over to see his family when they reported screams coming from his room late into the evening. Horrified, the families witnessed Peter burning in blue flames. A fireman was dispatched to the house, but by the time he could put out the fire, nothing could have been done to save Peter. And investigators note that in the nursery, nothing could have caused such a fire. Despite how bad the flame was, the only thing that was damaged outside of Peter and his clothes was the inside of the crib had a few charred burn marks. Firemen were baffled that the rest of the nursery didn't catch on fire.
Oh, a baby?
Yeah.
11 months old, not even a year.
My baby's a year in 2 weeks. It's crazy. I couldn't even imagine that happening. Like, my God.
It's because 12 months is a year, so.
Yeah.
He's basically how old this baby was that.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. My baby Walter, he's so cute.
It's like, how does one's body, or how, it's like we said, how do you know if they're going to be flammable? You don't.
Yeah.
It's random. It's not like it randomly happens sometime. It just happens once and boom, unless you know how to put it out, right? That one where he like cupped it out.
Yeah. Yeah, see, one thing that's associated with this that was in multiple reports is a blue flame. And a blue flame is the presence of enough oxygen. All carbon atoms in that area will turn into carbon dioxide. So that's how the flame appears to be blue in color, but the key to this blue flame is oxygen. So if enough oxygen is exposed, that's how the flame starts, I guess. Probable causes of this type of combustion is linked to bacteria, static electricity, obesity, stress, and excessive consumption of alcohol. So there are a few things to know about blue flame, which is associated with a lot of these cases. And blue flame is significantly hotter than red flame. So in terms of fire color, blue indicates a much hotter temperature than red. And
I've heard about like eternal flames, which is like the blue eternal flame, but there's like, something that keeps them burning at all times, but it was blue, so I guess that makes sense because it's so hot that nothing could put it out. Like, nothing can put it out.
Key points about eternal flames is that these flames are sustained by natural gas escaping from underground cracks in the Earth's surface, allowing them to burn continuously. Many eternal flames hold like religious and mythological significance. I guess there's a place in Iraq, Turkey, New York. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's the one I saw. It's behind a waterfall.
That's amazing.
And it can get wet. There's water around it constantly, but it never goes out.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so that's how I found out about it.
But it looks like that flame is not blue.
It was blue though when I looked at it.
Really?
Like when I saw the video.
Wow. Super interesting. I used to see blue flames when I used like a lab, like my Bunsen burners and stuff. But I don't know. Let's see what Reddit has to say about this. I love Reddit. It says the heat is not just infrared, but hotter objects emit more black body radiation than colder ones. Super interesting. I did not know that about blue flames. Yeah, you should totally look up like what causes blue flames. It's super interesting. And then also eternal flames, which I did not know that those even existed. I guess there's 10 of them.
Now you know those eternal flames.
So cool. Oh, I know about Centralia in Pennsylvania. That's like from like a coal mine or that's burning.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm crazy. Either way, eternal flame is cool as shit.
Yeah. Very cool. But now we're going to get into some cases that are from less than 100 years ago. So these are really well documented. This next case is actually called a landmark case because it is the first instance in which modern science was used to determine the case of the incident. The FBI officials, such as firemen, arson experts, and pathologists, could not determine any logical cause to the case of Miss Mary Reeser in St. Petersburg, Florida. This was in 1951. The police department said, "Our investigators have turned up nothing and cannot single out or prove beyond a doubt what actually happened. The case is still open and we are far from establishing any logical cause to the death." So now we're going to get into basically what the scene looked like. So trigger warning, if you don't want to hear anything really gross, it's about to get gross. The only thing left of her remains was her head and a shoe that still had her foot in it. The ceiling and draperies and the wall from the point exactly 4 feet above the floor was coated in a smelly, oily soot. The mirror 10 feet away had cracked from the heat exposure. On the dressing table 12 feet away, the candles had melted completely to the floor, but the wick was still intact. The baseboards beneath her body were not damaged. The plastic wall outlets 4 feet away from her had melted off. The clock nearby had stopped at precisely 4:20 p.m., and there were newspapers on that table 4 feet away that were not damaged. So the police called the FBI to investigate, and a laboratory at FBI headquarters had estimated that her weight was around 175 pounds. And when they weighed what was left of her, it was less than 10 pounds.
Oh, shit.
The final report concluded no chemical agents caused her death, and a doctor who examined her said to a local newspaper, "I have posed the problem to myself again and again of why Miss Reeser could have been so thoroughly destroyed even to the bone, and yet able to leave nearby objects and materials unaffected. I always end up rejecting any theories by facing the apparent facts." So this one literally baffled, like, the entire town of St. Petersburg.
I can't believe it happened in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, that was in 1951.
I love St. Pete, dude.
Yeah. I've been there a few times. Back when I lived in Florida.
It's cool that they document this stuff.
Mm-hmm. It gets even crazier. The body of Wayman Wood was a resident of Greenville, South Carolina. And I know I've been to Greenville. He was found in the front seat of his car in March 1st of 1953. The car was parked on the side of bypass route 291, and although little remained of Wayman, the car was intact with a half tank of gas, and the windshield bubbled and sagged inward from heat exposure.
Ew.
Yeah.
But, like, nasty.
But, like, the car didn't, like...
But the seat did, right? I'm thinking about the seat. Is that what it said?
Let's see.
So something went inward, right?
The windshield bubbled and sagged inward.
That's gross. That's what I mean. Something went inward. Like, that just sounds gross. Bubbled. Went inward. I'm like, ooh.
I can't, like, imagine that. Like, because
I
normally...
just heard bubbled and inward. I'm like, ooh. Like, oozing in. Like, you know what I mean? From the heat.
It's a special kind of heat. My apologies, I'm just now getting a cough again.
Oh, God.
It sucks! I literally just got
Stop making sick. No, you're not. You just coughed once. That's it.
Well, hopefully I'm not getting nothing, but...
Oh, God, you're not.
I've been sick several times this year.
Get me sick now. That way I don't have to later. Let's go.
Our next case was in Honolulu, Hawaii, in December of 1956. A 78-year-old man named Young Sik Kim was a resident of 1130 Manaku Street.
That's what they gave out his address.
I know, it's crazy. But at the age of 78, he was crippled and not able to walk, so he had to use a wheelchair. His next door neighbor found him enveloped in blue flames near his garage. The heat was so intense that he could not do anything, so he called the firemen, and by 15 minutes later, his body was reduced to ash, and the only thing that remained was his feet that were propped up in a wheelchair.
Oh my lord.
Nothing else nearby was damaged, and not even in the windows near the garage had any residue from the flames.
Just his feet in the chair, like a monk.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. It's so weird. Next one is one of the most intriguing cases for me. This was noted in October of 1950 in London.
London.
A woman by the name of Mabel Andrews was dancing with her boyfriend Clifford at a discotheque in London, which, why don't we have discotheques anymore? Like, discotheque? That sounds awesome. Like, I
work
would
in the UK and everyone in Europe is fucking
Oh
awesome.
man, I
With our
want
basic accents. They got the accents. They got everything better. Baby. I'm just kidding.
dude, I wish I had an accent like
Hello,
that.
lovely.
I love the accents of the UK. Like, I love you UK girls. Like, your accents are adorable. I love it.
Yes, I love it.
And it's not a stereotype either. I'm not even stereotyping. Really, your culture is, it's awesome.
I think any
I love
culture,
it.
accents in general, I think everything is just fascinating to just, you know what I mean? It's just intriguing to me. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Anyway,
I want to go to the UK.
you're gonna go. You're gonna go.
Go have some tea.
Oh my god, high tea.
But back to Mabel's case. Basically, Mabel Andrews was dancing at the discotheque in London with her boyfriend. While on the dance floor, Clifford noticed that fire started burning from her back, and the flames rose to her hair before she was able to tell that she was on fire. Clifford and some bystanders started trying to beat the flames, but in the process, alcohol was thrown on her, and at that point, nothing could be done to save her. Idiots pouring alcohol on a fire. I mean,
yeah, if I could kill someone if I died and get them while I was dead, it'd be them I was coming for. Like, you're the reason I died. Like, you dumped something else on me to make me basically furthermore burn. Thank you.
yeah, she better go back and haunt that idiot.
Yeah, that's what I would.
But Clifford said to police in his testimony, "I saw no one smoking on the dance floor. There were no candles on the table, and I did not see her dress catch fire from anything. I know it sounds incredible, but it appeared to me that the flames burst outward as if they were originating from her body." And she was just dancing. Imagine you're just...
That's beautiful. What was that song, Swan Lake?
I have a friend who loves 1950s music. She tells me all the time, like, she's like, I love
She
1950s.
did send us a couple hits. 50 hits.
She literally feels like Patsy Cline and stuff. Like, oh yeah.
She's a 1950s bitch.
Yeah, yeah.
Love you, Patsy.
But basically, Mabel's death was declared fire by misadventure, fire from origin unknown by the court. This one for me really got me because imagine you're just like dancing. Like, I love dancing. I love going out to music. Like, imagine you're just like dancing and like somebody around you just catches on fire. This is like chaos.
I mean, you would think that someone just dumped something on them and walked away or something, but the fact that then your hair, everything else would burn, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you know how like the head and the hands aren't burning either. Like, it's like they're mysteriously getting gassed alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's just like fire coming from their bodies, but like they don't know how they're doing it. And it gets even weirder. This one is from December 13th of 1959. Billy Peterson, a 30-year-old from Pontiac, Michigan. He was noted being very depressed for several months leading up to his death. He was found in his car from what looked to be a suicide, but the right side passenger seat was smoldering when he was found, and his body was also, like, smoking. When they took him to the Pontiac General Hospital, he was pronounced dead of carbon monoxide poisoning, but what could not be explained is when they took his clothes off, his legs, back, and arms had third-degree burns, and his nose, throat, and lungs had received smoke inhalation, and there was an oily substance coming from the inside of his clothing.
Like it secreted out of his pores. Like,
Yeah.
from his body?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it was only in those parts of the body. It was like the legs, the back, and the arms.
Ew, like he had, ew.
But the thing is that all of these cases, it's saying that like the fire will either start from like the top of the thigh, or it'll start at the arm, or it'll start from the back.
Like, so somewhere in the center is starting the heat and the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like the fire's coming from the head or coming from like the fingers. Like it's coming from
the core,
like the torso kind of area of the body, but it's like from your shoulders to your upper thigh, which there's people out there who run hot. Like Eric is crazy because Eric is my husband if you do not know. And he literally, this was like a week or two ago, he went outside with just his boxers on, no socks or shoes, and went and stood in the snow and was steaming. It was like 12 degrees outside. He was literally, I was watching steam come off of his body. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, this feels so good. And I'm just like, it's cold outside. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, some people just don't get cold, really.
Some people run hot. Like, he literally had steam coming off of him. And
That's
I'm just
crazy.
like, no, he wasn't sick either. But he just runs hot. When I was telling him about some stories while I was researching, he kept joking and he was like, this stuff's gonna happen to me. He's like, I run hot. Like, I always feel like I'm on fire.
Yourself, motherfucker. Something's gonna run around me on fire. You're gonna be freaking out.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, don't.
You're
like,
what the fuck?
Like, I don't need to worry about you catching on fire now. Okay, like, quit it. Let's see. Now we're going to get into our most recent cases. The most recent cases are from 2010 and 2017. In 2010, in Ireland, the body of an elderly man was found with only his head near a fireplace of his apartment, but the apartment had no fire damage. The burn marks on the floor and on the ceiling directly above him or anywhere else in the room was nowhere to be found. An Irish coroner would later rule that his death was spontaneous combustion, and his name was Michael Faraday, and he was 76 years old.
I wonder, like, how long he was there like that till they found him. Because this was when was this?
2010.
Yeah. This is when, phones and shit were out.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if someone recorded it. Like, not okay. And if it were to have been recorded, it's probably no longer able to be seen now. But I wonder if someone did actually get, like, something. Or I wonder if or like, how people are these days.
Mm-hmm. When you look it up, it says his death was attributed to spontaneous combustion, and investigators found no burned furniture, only a burned corpse.
Huh.
But it doesn't say, like, how long he went without being found. The most recent of recent cases was reported that a 70-year-old man had suddenly burst into flames in unexplained circumstances in a London street. The fire brigade's investigation found no evidence of any accelerant that would have spread the flames, and the man's death was treated as unexplained. Could this be another case of spontaneous human combustion? I mean, if a man freaking blows up in the street and there's no cause of accelerant or anything, then I would say that that's a pretty strong case. Like, if he didn't have,
and they just ruled it as unexplained. Like, they didn't really look into it further. They're just, like, unexplained, and they didn't think of it. They don't want to care to think about what really happened. I mean, like, they don't want to see that. Or do they not want us to see that?
It says that in the 21st century list of international classification of diseases compiled by the World Health Organizations, that spontaneous human combustion is not recognized, and that most doctors and scientists argue that the scenes are not thoroughly investigated. So basically they're saying that they're incompetent, is what they're saying. These people, they're not good at their jobs, is what they're saying. Even though I feel like doctors should do more investigating into phenomena or anomalies that they don't understand, but A number of things have been taken into account during the 17th through 19th centuries of possible scenarios as to how this could happen. So some of the things that they note is fats and oils in the bodies, when in abundance, can become fuel. Static electricity produces sparks at times and under certain conditions can set fire to the body or surrounding areas.
Imagine like it's like, you know how, like, when someone farts and they do like air and then flame from like what if that air goes off inside and there's a chemical inside and then boom?
But how people be like farting out their back or
Like what? Mom's not like. Is there a way for it to happen?
like the gas to escape somewhere else
to where the chemical would react and then cause you to explode? Like honestly, that shit is like people say like those are things are toxic, like chemically. No, it's just like the flame, basically the chemical, and like it can be flammable.
Yeah, I mean,
so what if it?
Good theory. It is a theory. Hey,
it's just a thought. It was a random thought that I just thought about in this very moment. I've never thought of it before until now.
No, I love it. No, that's awesome.
Okay.
Another theory that they have throughout the 17th through 19th century is intestinal gases are flammable, which could be true.
Okay, maybe that's what I was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Haystack and compost heaps can build enough heat for spontaneous combustion, which I guess at those times in like the 17th and 19th century, like they weren't as clean.
Hell no, so, they were dumping their shit out the damn windows.
Yeah.
What you mean, girl? They were like, oh, my daddy shit. Yeah. And they fucking dumped it out the window. Splash. Hit someone on the head, like imagine, like, make sure you're not down that alleyway where they dump that shit out.
Well, I mean, it is entirely possible that all of the hay that they were on, because a lot of these people were on beds of hay, and they also were, as I said, they weren't very clean, so people use like compost and stuff like in their gardens and whatever, so it is possible. But in a lot of these cases that I even talked about, the hay around the people was not burned.
No.
So I don't feel like that's very true, but I mean, that's just one of the theories. Certain elements and compounds spontaneously burst into flames when exposed to air. This is true for phosphorus, and this is also a constituent of the body. How our body uses phosphorus. Phosphorus plays an important role in the impact of your kidneys, bones, muscles, and blood vessels. It's found in a lot of cheeses, baking ingredients. So I guess phosphorus works with calcium to build up your bones. Phosphorus is flammable, and phosphorus is also in your body. So I mean, it is, I would say,
chemical reaction.
That's honestly possible. I would say that's a pretty good theory. Another theory is some chemicals that are inert alone can combine with other compounds to form something explosive. Talking about shit. Talking about some explosive shit right there.
Literally.
Towards the end of the 1800s, it was said by doctors that if the human body is mostly made of water, then how can the human body combust?
Because we're made of gas too.
Pretty logical thinking, though. We are over 70% water.
Yeah, but we're still made of gas.
We still got that
other
gas.
components.
Man, dude, Eric suffers from perpetual flatulence.
I was about to say another word for gas is flatulating. So instead of me saying farting earlier, I guess I could have said flatulate for a more appropriate word. But and there are two F's. Start with an F.
Yeah. I mean,
I learned that in middle school actually.
If you want to start being more proper, then you need to start saying flatulate.
Flatulate.
Flagitate.
Flagitate. You look it up.
A lot of the reports that were from France were labeled from modern science as neurotic cases because the American doctors did not witness these reports. Incredibly rude for American doctors to say that the cases from France were neurotic. How rude. They weren't even there. Yeah, like they weren't even there. And they're just, no.
We weren't there, so
we're just not going to believe that. I feel
it's very childish.
Yeah, well, that seems to be the American way. It's being childish. It was like with the whole TikTok ban. They took it away for like 6 hours and then they gave it back.
PR stunt, dude.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, it had to be a PR stunt.
It was fucking literally, oh, thank you, President Trump. Like, what the fuck? He was they literally did it. Like, I don't even have to be into politics. I don't get into any of that stuff. It literally, how quickly it left and came back. I don't get it.
And then,
well, it kind of does seem different. Like, people, it did meta take over. Like, TikTok is what we're worried.
If Facebook took over, I wouldn't even. Oh my gosh. Facebook sucks.
The stocks in Meta have gone down. They better fucking crash. Anyway, let's get away from that. If we don't hear this, Zucky. Fuck you, Mitt Romney.
Yeah, you and Elon go over there and have your little smooch fest. Meanwhile, everybody else can get on TikTok except for me because I'm still grounded. So, I guess my FBI agent who has my TikTok, he's probably like, oh, she cannot have it back. Not anytime soon. She is in trouble.
You can't be starting all those videos for our podcasts. Because we're about to start giving you all information that you're gonna...
Yeah, our next podcast episode, instead of being more kind of grotesque like this one, we're going to do something a little more lighter next time.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, we are going to be having a true crime one here soon, but it's not going to be this next one.
No, it won't be.
It'll be, we'll end on a lighter note next time. Because we did talk about, like, bodies burning.
Yeah, any ideas if you guys want to send our way, we have our email, so...
Yes, you do. If you would like to email Chadderbox Corner, we would like to hear your feedback, or if you just want to send us an idea, it's something that we can look into and add to our list of topics. So, we're going to basically end this episode for today with this little bit I have here, which is spontaneous human combustion is not a new illness. It has been documented for centuries, and it's not something that modern science will accept, but after all of this, going through cases, I agree that modern science may not be able to figure out why it happens, but I do believe that spontaneous human combustion does happen, and it happens in certain circumstances. I find it highly fascinating because I feel like this has some kind of connection to people who have special abilities. As I mentioned earlier, Stephen King's novel Firestarter. I also mentioned Stranger Things. I feel like there are children or even adults who have innate abilities that they have no idea. They're not even aware. They don't know how, but they have these abilities. And I feel like it's something... I wouldn't say I feel like it's supernatural, or I guess that is the word. I guess I would say that this is something that would be supernatural, and that it's an ability, but not everybody has it.
Yeah, we're in tune with it completely. Like, you don't know you have it, so how do you know what to do with it?
Mm-hmm. And it's not something that is particularly studied.
It just sucks that these only happen so much, so often, to where... That might be why people don't have, no one's really been there to, see, you can't get inside their body as it's happening to see why it's happening, It's like, how would you ever know that? It's like...
Yeah, I feel like after going through all of these cases, and especially with the one in London where the boyfriend it was almost as if the flames were coming from the inside of her body. I really feel like these people who witness this stuff, they would have more grounds to be able to be, a lot of these people didn't survive. A lot of these people, or modern science, is not going to accept that. They're going to be like, well, these investigators didn't do their due diligence. They didn't investigate thoroughly.
Yep, I believe in that.
But, thank you for coming to our episode today. We hope you keep it chatty.
Keep it nice.
And keep it sweet. Because we will not be keeping this short. So, thank you for with us today.
Yes,
and we hope you crush it with whatever you're doing today.
Much love. Big chat.
This has been
Chadderbox.
Thank you.